All right, in this installment, we look at a lie that never ever needed to be told. It served no purpose. It's not going to gain him any political capital. It's just going to demonstrate how pathological he is with some of these lies. So let's look at the tape. All right, let's take a good look at this image. On the left, John Trump, MIT professor, real scientist, respected mind. In the middle, MIT, actual institution of learning. And on the right, well, whatever the opposite of that is. Now let's look at a lie that nobody asked for, didn't help Trump at all, and only exists to remind us of one thing. He has zero respect for his supporters because he genuinely thinks that they'll believe anything. Trump has been going around repeatedly saying that Uncle John, the professor, taught the Unabomber. Yes, that Unabomber. He tells it like it's some kind of family brag. My uncle taught one of the America's most brilliant domestic therapists. Incredible brain, big future, and explosive, I guess. He said it multiple times. Not once, not offhand, but it's like it's one of his greatest hits. And it's completely made up. The timelines don't match. MIT says there's no record. Ted Kaczynski was never anywhere near Trump's uncle's classroom. Trump keeps telling the story anyway because he's not lying for strategy. He's lying pathologically. Even if it's dumb, even if it's pointless, and clearly the brain drain in America is well on the way, and apparently Trump is going to be the biggest star. So let's hear the lie from Trump himself.
When I first heard about AI, it's not my thing. Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever. He was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT, 3 degrees in
3 degrees? Man, okay.
nuclear, chemical, and math. That's
Nuclear, chemical, and math. I doubt it says that on his degrees. He's only got one, but let's keep moving.
a smart man.
Okay, let's slow that down for a second. 3 degrees in chemical, math, and nuclear. That's not a resume. That's a brain fart. What does that even mean, Trump? Nuclear what? Chemical what? Math? How? It's like he walked past a high school science fair and started shouting out the words on the posters. And he also says that his uncle is the longest serving professor at MIT, 51 years. Granted, that is a really long time. But first of all, he wasn't. John Trump was there for about 49 years total, which, why lie about it? It's long enough. But there are dozens of professors who served longer. So, no, your uncle wasn't the record holder. He wasn't the Cal Ripken of academia. But the way Donald tells it, his uncle invented radar, built the atom bomb, taught the Unabomber, and apparently majored in every available subject all at once, especially fiction. That is what pathological lying looks like. It's not even strategic, it's just instinct. He lies the way most of us breathe, constantly, uncontrollably, and sometimes probably near radiation.
Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was? There's very little difference between a madman and a genius.
Wow. So not only is Trump out here falsely claiming that the Unabomber studied under his uncle, he's also out there, philosophizing about it. Like he's hosting a TED talk titled, I don't know, Pipe Bombs and Potential. Now, just to be clear, Ted Kaczynski went to Harvard. You guys can Google, that's a fact. He was 16 when he got into Harvard and he graduated without ever attending any MIT classes. So this wasn't a slip. It's not a maybe he misremembered situation. But you know what? Let's be generous. Maybe Trump just had a little senior moment. I mean, it happens. The guy's pushing 80. Maybe he's developed a mild case of, can't remember shit syndrome. After all, he says Biden has it every week. So surely we can show Trump the same compassion, no? Yeah, no. Because the difference is Biden wasn't out there bragging about teaching the Unabomber. This is not a memory glitch. It's an ego glitch. It's a fantasy where Trump is always adjacent to brilliance, even if that brilliance ends in mail bombs. And honestly, I wouldn't have minded if he stopped right there, but then he went into some fantasy conversation that he personally had with his uncle. So let's check that out.
What kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? And then he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well.
Okay, let's walk this through slowly because Trump is now giving a personality profile of a man his uncle never met. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, never attended MIT. Not for undergrad, not for grad school, not for a single class, not even a weekend seminar. He went to Harvard, started at age 16, and finished his math degree quietly and quickly. Then he got a PhD in math from the University of Michigan and taught 2 years at Berkeley before, vanishing into the woods. That's real. That's verifiable. You can look up his entire academic record in 5 seconds, which is apparently 4 seconds more than Trump's staff is allowed. So when Trump says his uncle, Dr. John Trump, said he'd go around correcting everybody, he is literally just quoting a fake conversation about a fake relationship between two people who were never in the same building. That's not a senior moment. That's storytelling. Bad storytelling. Now, look, even if it were true, even if this whole fantasy somehow happened, nobody enjoys being corrected all the time. Kaczynski, that's not brilliance. That's just being a dick. And yeah, maybe if Kaczynski hadn't alienated everyone around him, maybe if he'd had one friend or therapist or basic social skill, he wouldn't have spent 17 years alone in a cabin in Montana with no running water, inventing conspiracy theories and mailing bombs to strangers. But let's be honest, that's not the point of this story. Trump's not warning us about the dangers of untreated isolation or radicalization. He's trying to attach himself to a moment of genius, even if that genius turned violent and totally fictional. It's myth building, it's ego laundering, it's my uncle taught the Unabomber, which makes me basically what, part of Mensa with a darker edge. And the scary part, he's saying this with pride, like it makes him smarter. Not my uncle helped save lives with science, but my uncle molded a terrorist with vibes. Again, none of it is true. Again, none of it's true. Kaczynski never went to MIT. John Trump never taught him. In this conversation Trump keeps quoting, it's as real as the time he said that windmills cause cancer. Take a look at the image on the left. That's John Trump's obituary published in 1985. MIT professor, accomplished scientist, legitimate legacy. He died a decade before the Unabomber was even identified, let alone arrested. So this conversation Trump keeps quoting, what kind of student was he, Dr. John? Yeah, that either happened through a psychic medium or Ted Kaczynski, I guess, was such a good student in Trump's fantasy world that he actually taught John Trump how to time travel. Maybe they hung out together in the woods. Maybe he co-authored his manifesto. Maybe they built a flux capacitor and used math, chemical, and nuclear to go back and forth between MIT and 1996. Because let's not forget, the Unabomber wasn't even caught until 96, and John Trump had been dead for 11 years by then. This isn't just a lie, it's historically impossible. It's fan fiction for people who can't pass a basic, 8th grade history course. But here's the thing, this isn't really about John Trump. He was probably a decent guy, a serious scientist, and there's no reason to believe he ever imagined his nephew would grow up to be this. A man who takes an actual legacy and stretches it into a bad origin story, like a Marvel villain with a head injury. So why does this matter? Because these lies aren't random. They're not just dumb. They're part of a broader strategy. To replace truth with loyalty, to replace facts with vibes, and to rewrite history one fake anecdote at a time until no one can tell what's real anymore. If we don't call it out, if we don't stop and say, no, that's not how any of this happened, then eventually the fantasy becomes the memory and the lie becomes the history. And we end up living in a version of reality where the Unabomber was a family friend and John Trump is still walking the halls at MIT giving lectures beyond the grave. So that's what we're doing here. That's why this show exists. Because the only way to stop this alternate universe from becoming our truth is to stay loud, stay informed, and keep shining a light on the absurd until it burns the whole fiction down. So if you guys got thoughts, drop a comment. And if this is your kind of thing, subscribing helps more than you think.
You built your throne on fake gold, fake stats, fake pride. Now the whole world's watching you crash from inside. Talk big, but your walls made of lies and tweets. I'm the voice of the people, bringing fire to the seats.